Okay, this is section 4.4, and we're going to do more numeration systems. We've already talked about the Mayans and the Babylonians, and in this section we're going to talk about the Egyptian, Roman, and Chinese. We are not going to do the Greek system. We don't need to worry about the Greek. Alright, Egyptian numeration system is probably the easiest numeration system we're going to talk about. If you know what each of the symbols are, they represent quantity. So for example, this picture right here represents the quantity 1 million. That's 1 million. I had to see how many zeros that was. And this symbol right here represents 10,000, etc. And the nice thing about the Egyptian system is that you just add them up. So if this represents a million, that means I have a million. Plus, I have two of these, and those represent 10,000, so that gives me 20,000. Plus three of these, and those each represent 10, so that's 30. Plus, and those each represent 1, so that is 4. You add those numbers up. Let's see, 0, 20,000, 34, and done. You don't need to worry about place values. It doesn't matter the order in which we write these. We could put these up here and it would still be the same number. You just add the numbers up. Going the other direction, you want to write this as an Egyptian numeral. You just have to figure out what the symbol is for the 1,000, figure out what the symbol is for 100, for 50, and for the units for 1. So the symbol for 1,000, and I don't have this memorized, but is the quote-unquote lotus blossom. So we need one of those. So triangle, and then it looks kind of like that. Do your best. And then we need to figure out what the hundreds are, and we need 7 of those. So those are the spirals. So we need 7 of those. Let's see if I can find the right page. Yep. So 1, 2, 3. I'm not drawing the spirals very good, but you get the idea. 4, 5, 6, 7. The 10s, those are what they call the heel bones. 2, 3, 4, 5, and 2. And there you go, 1,752. Roman numeration system, you may be familiar with this. They are used commonly into the 1700s. We still use them today for outlines, sometimes on clocks, sometimes in books. If you look at an index, that's usually numbered with Roman numbers. You will have to memorize this one. The Babylonians, the Mayans, all that, I give you the chart, but with the Roman numeral system, you do have to memorize. Alright, so these two things are really important with the Roman numeration system. If I have a larger number and then a smaller number, so let's look at our chart down here, and larger numbers are over here and smaller numbers are over here. So if I have a larger number and then a smaller number, so dx, I would add the two numbers together. Add. D is 500, x is 10, add those together and you get 510. On the other hand, if the symbols increase in value, then you subtract. So we've got a small number I, we've got a large number 10, I is smaller than x, we subtract. Subtract. So that is, and you actually got to do it in a different order, so you actually have to do 10. Subtract 1 gives you 9. Okay, so as long as the numbers get smaller, it's just add them up. But if you're going this direction, then you have to subtract. And if you're subtracting, it's going to be the number immediately to the right. So you wouldn't have, I can't even think of an example, but let's suppose I have an I here and a C and a D and a whatever. This only gets subtracted from the next door neighbor, and that's actually not a good example because I cannot subtract from C. So let's take a look at that as well, because that's important. The only numbers that can be subtracted are the ones. The only numbers that can be subtracted, the I, which is 1, the x, which is 10, the c, which is 100, and the m, which is 1000. So you cannot take a v, put it in front of an L, and call it 45. You cannot. That doesn't work. It's not allowed. You cannot subtract any of the 5s. You cannot subtract a 5, you cannot subtract a 50, you cannot subtract 500. They can be subtracted from, but those quantities themselves cannot be subtracted. The other thing, you can only go 2 numbers up when you're subtracting. So I can put an I in front of a V, so I, V, that's allowed, which will give you 4, because you take the 5 and subtract the 1. I can put an I in front of an X, which is 9, which comes from 10, subtract 1. But you absolutely cannot put an I in front of a C and call it 99. That's not allowed. You can only go 2 up. So the I can be put in front of the V, it can be put in front of the X. That's it. The X can be put in front of the L, it can be put in front of the C, and that's it. So I can put XL for 40, and I can put XC for 90. Those are allowed. You cannot put XD, you cannot put XM. Those are not allowed. The C can only be subtracted from the D and the M. All right. So we want to write, or we want to figure out what CLXVII is as a regular number. So you're going to have to memorize this, but in the meantime, we don't have this memorized yet. The C stands for 100. The L is a smaller number, so you're going to add the L. So C is 100, L is 50. 100. Add the 50. The X is smaller than the L, so you're going to add the X, which is 10. The V is smaller than the X, add the 5, and the I's are going to be added. So what is that total? So 100 plus 50 plus 10 is 60, 160. 7 should be this number as a regular Hindu Arabic number. Now let's take a look at an occasion where you would be subtracting. Notice I have an M here, I've got a C, so that's smaller, and then I have an M. Well, notice the C is smaller than the M. So what you're going to do is you're going to pair these two up and take your M and subtract the C. So this M is 1,000. This CM combination, since the C is smaller than the M, means take 1,000 and subtract 100. Okay. Then we have XC. Well, X is smaller than C. So I have to take that as a combination. The XC is a combination. So I have to take 100, which is the C, subtract the X, which is 10. Then I have V and I. V is smaller than the C, and I is smaller yet, so I have 5 plus, that's 1. Looks like an I. Let me change that. 1. All right, so let's see what this is. This is 1,990, 1,996. Chinese numeration system. I'm not going to make you memorize it, but I will expect you to know how to use it. So this chart will be given to you on the test. The way the Chinese write their numbers is they do the symbol for, so we're doing 3,264. So, well, let's go bottom to the top. So they do the symbol for 4, and then they say, so for 60, then they say they have 6 tens, 2 100s, 3 thousands. And so you draw the picture, you draw the symbol for 3, you draw the symbol for 1,000, symbol for 2, symbol for 100, etc. And that would look like this. 3,264. And your homework is 4 through 48. Every 4, you only have to do every 4, so that means 4, 8, 12, 16, etc.